Okay, so now we're going to talk about the kingdom plants, one of my personal favorites because I love to garden. I love growing flowers, and I really, really do enjoy uh, studying plants. All right. All right, so the first thing we're going to learn about are the different types of plants. So we're going to be looking at plants that have seeds, plants that do not have seeds, they're called seedless plants. Also, we're going to be looking at plants that have vascular tissue and plants that don't have vascular tissue, which is called non-vascular. So we're going to look at seedless plants first. So you should be able to describe how plants are classified and be able to contrast non-vascular and vascular plants. Okay, so plants, the first thing we do when we classify plants is we look to see if they have vascular tissue. Vascular tissue is like our artery and veins that we have. And vascular tissue are tubes that will transport nutrients throughout the plant, just like our arteries and veins do that. So when you classify plants, you look to see if they have vascular tissue or if they don't. If they do not have vascular tissue, they are called non-vascular plants. All non-vascular plants are seedless, meaning they do not produce seeds. Vascular plants are broken down into two categories. Vascular plants can be either seedless or seed. So we're going to look at non-vascular seedless plants first. So like I just mentioned, vascular tissue is tube-like structures that carry waste and nutrients. They're like arteries and veins. Vascular plants can reproduce by seeds. They don't reproduce by seeds, they're seedless, and they reproduce by spores. Vascular plants usually are bigger, thicker, they have roots, flowers, and cones. So this is a picture of kind of what a cross-section of vascular tissue would look like. Okay, non-vascular plants are just a few cells. So they are multicellular, but they don't have a ton of cells. They grow in damp places. They do not have flowers or cones. They reproduce by spores. They only grow about 2 to 5 centimeters in height. They have no roots. They have what's called rhizoids instead. And they can withstand long dry periods, so they can withstand droughts. So let's take a look at non-vascular seedless plants. They have no vascular tissue and they reproduce by spores. So I mentioned earlier that they have rhizoids. These are thread-like structures that anchor the plant instead of roots. They look like this. Really weird looking. Okay, those are the rhizoids. They are called pioneer species because when there's a disturbed area like a forest fire, they are one of the first living things to come back to that ecosystem. So we call them pioneer species. So if you take a look at this picture, okay, over time, you get annual plants, perennials, but before that, you've got the non-vascular plants. So let's take a look at some examples of non-vascular seedless plants. Mosses, those are one of the first things that come back in a disturbed area. Liverworts, isn't that a fun name for a plant? And they are weird looking. And hornworts. Oops. Drop that. Oh. Sorry. Oh, I went to the next one. My bad. Give a second. I'll get back on track. Wormworts. Here we go. They're really tiny. See how small they are? 2 to 5 centimeters in height. They don't get very big. Non-vascular plants do not get very big. So why are they so important? Because they're pioneer species. They'll come back. They'll be one of the first plants to come back. They can grow in thin soils because they're so small. And they can grow a lot of places where other plants cannot grow. Okay, so now we're going to look at vascular seedless plants. So now we're going to look at plants that reproduce by spores and they have vascular tissue. So some examples of vascular seedless plants are ferns. And back in the dinosaur age, in the Mesozoic era, 65 million years ago, these ferns were 25 meters in height. They were huge, and that's what the herbivore dinosaurs used to feed off of. And then after the big asteroid impact, those ferns did not have enough sunlight, couldn't photosynthesize, they died. That started to cause a chain reaction, and then the dinosaurs started to die off. Just a little trivia for you. Club mosses. And horsetails. Yeah, the seedless plants have the weirdest names. And it kind of looks like the tail of the horse, that's why it's called that way. But these are three examples of seedless plants that reproduce by spores but have vascular tissue. So why are these type of plants important? They help create coal when they decompose. We use a lot of them for houseplants and in landscaping. Can be used for food, and sometimes they're used in folk medicine. Okay, so hopefully you've got an idea of the difference between non-vascular and vascular plants, and you can identify the seedless non-vascular plants and the seedless vascular plants.